Hi, I'm Fern and today we're going to go foraging. Oh wow, we've got some good jelly ears here. Can you see these? So these are jelly ear mushrooms and they're also known as wood ear mushrooms, and they are one of the best wild edible mushrooms for beginners. And that's because here in the UK at least, there is really not any other type of mushroom that looks similar to them. There are other types of jelly fungus or jelly mushroom, but they don't hold the same form. So they literally will just look like blobs of jelly on a tree. But these wood ear mushrooms or jelly ear mushrooms hold these beautiful ear-like shapes, and you can literally see they've got a rounded inside, almost domed, and they've got this very kind of velvety feel on top, and then underneath they're very, very smooth and wrinkled like the inside of an ear. So jelly ears really come into their own in the winter time, and they can survive being fully frosted and then thawed out again. So they're not used too much in kind of English cuisine, but in Asian cooking they're really, really popular. You can buy them dried in bags from Asian supermarkets, and they go really nicely in noodle soups, stir fries. So basically when they dry out they lose all of their moisture and they turn into really thin little crisps. And then these crisps can be rehydrated. So you can either rehydrate them in water, you could rehydrate them in a kind of soy and lime dressing to pull in all of those flavours. You can even rehydrate them in alcohol and dip them in chocolate to make amazing little mushroom liqueurs. Jelly ears specifically grow on elder trees, so if you're looking for them, make sure you're in an area that's populated by elders. Good to leave those little ones so they can keep growing. This is woodavon, and it's also known as clove root, and this would have been a really popular and widely used spice before we started importing spices into the UK. So the part of the plant we're interested in is the roots, and the roots when broken smell really strongly of warm and spicy cloves, and this flavour can also be infused into dishes. So it works so well into a soup stock. You can also mull wine and cider with it, and it's just got a beautiful flavour. It can also be dried and powdered to use in the same way as you would powdered clove. So we're going to identify it with the aerial part. So what we're looking for is something similar to a strawberry leaf. So it's got three parts. So it's a trifate leaf, and underneath that trifate leaf there's going to be an opposite pair of really small rounded leaves, and that's a really nice unique leaf pattern. We also need to make sure that the leaves are growing in a rosette form, so all of our little stems are coming from one point in the ground, and that's the bit we're going to find the root under. So let's dig this up and we'll harvest ourselves some clove roots. So here we've got a lovely tangle of really thin white roots, and it's going to be quite hard to smell them because mud has a surprisingly strong smell, but once we get these home and get them thoroughly washed, they're going to smell absolutely beautiful. So the chemical in clove root that makes them taste so much like clove also gives them the same medicinal properties. So they're really great to create that kind of numbing sensation, and they've traditionally been used as a cure for toothache or gum ache. Now we're going this way. This is hairy bittercress, and it's one of my favourite winter herbs. It's not hairy or bitter, it's delicious and really nice and soft and crunchy, with a nice vibrant spicy flavour that's quite similar to rocket leaves. Most wild greens get really bitter towards the winter time, but hairy bittercress doesn't, so it's a really perfect one to use in this dish. So hairy bittercress really loves really disturbed, almost kind of trampled soil, so it's one that you'll probably find even growing through paving cracks on the pavement, often in your garden. It's a really common weed. They've got these really shallow roots, so they're really easy to pick out, and as you can see, when they start growing in one area, they really take over. So you want to make sure that you're picking, as always, from an area of abundance, but they're growing absolutely all over this little pathway here. So we're going to pick a few of these too. So hairy bittercress also grows in these little rosettes, and you've got one pinnacle leaf or one leaf at the end with these little opposite pairs of leaves going down the centre. Okay, let's go find some more mushrooms, baby! Oh, God. Can't see him. So we've just found some beautiful velvet shanks hiding amongst the ivy. So velvet shanks are one of my favourite mushrooms, and the tops, when they're fried in butter and browned, are one of the most delicious things in the world. So unlike the jelly ears, velvet shanks probably aren't one that I'd recommend to absolute beginners, and that's because there are some poisonous and in some cases deadly lookalikes. So we really have to be careful that we're clued up enough that we can tell this mushroom apart from both the sulphur tuft and also the funeral bell. And the funeral bell is a deadly mushroom that grows in the UK that can look similar, so I'll find some footage of that to put alongside. So when we're foraging for velvet shank, we want to be really careful that we have a list of features in our head that is going to differentiate them from their poisonous lookalikes. So firstly, to differentiate them from the funeral bell, we're going to look at the stem. So the stem of the funeral bell, or the stipe as it's called in mushroom world, the stipe of the funeral bell has a ring on it, whereas the stipe of the velvet shank has no ring. So we want to make sure there's no ring on the stipe. We're also aware of the fact that with the velvet shank, the stipe can become dark brown in colour as the mushroom matures. On young specimens, however, it's going to remain kind of a light orangey yellow colour. We're also going to want to differentiate it from the sulphur tuft. So the sulphur tuft, the gills of the sulphur tuft have a kind of bluish greenish tinge to them, and the caps stay dome shaped. Whereas the velvet shank, the caps kind of flatten out, so you'll find more of a flat mushroom, which makes it easy to look at the gills, which never have a bluish greenish tinge. They're always a kind of nice, fresh, orangey yellow colour. So you can eat the velvet shanks raw. So in wild mushroom world, generally when a book says that a wild mushroom is edible, it means edible when cooked. But velvet shanks are an exception. So if you want to just give one of these little tops a nibble as you're walking through the woodlands, please feel free. Got this little one. They are really good. It's obviously hard to describe the taste of a mushroom, but it's sweet. It's like sweet and kind of biscuity is the only way I can describe it. It's almost like it tastes like a really nice sweet mushroom bread. Right, we definitely need more of these, so we're going to go and have a hunt. That's a really nice shot. Three-cornered leek, and this is a really common garden weed that we have here in the UK. Many people think it's wild garlic because it has such a strong, pungent smell when it's crushed or picked. It smells to me really similar to spring onion, and that's what the taste is like too. So a little less garlicky and a little more oniony, but still absolutely delicious. So this can completely take over areas of land. I usually find it in more open land, but occasionally I find it in the woodland too. So we're going to harvest a good amount of this to have with our tea. Because it's so abundant, you can, take a good chunk, but always leave some so it can flower and keep spreading. Three-cornered leek, the name, gives you a really good clue for identification. So when you cut, make sure, firstly, you're hit by a really strong spring oniony smell, but secondly, you have a look down at the base. So down at the base of your leaf, you're going to have 3 distinct corners, so it's almost going to form a triangle shape. Don't go simply by smell alone, make sure you're also using those 3 corners as a guide. If you're looking at this plant later on in the year, in the spring when it starts flowering, it's going to develop these little white flowers. They almost look like snowdrops, but on each petal they've got a green line down the centre of the petal. So that's another really good clue if you want to just keep an eye on this plant and wait till it's got those flowers on it so you can be sure. If you're just beginning your foraging journey, that would be a great idea. Oh my god, it's lunchtime! Wow! Wouldn't it be cool to have a campfire and then you could put the log across the campfire and then you could roast them all? Oh, look at these ones. Dinner? Yeah? With my basket. Wow, look at that huge one. Should leave some of these smaller ones. Whoa. This is turkey tail, and it's one of the most powerful medicinal mushrooms we have growing in the UK. It's got really powerful immune boosting properties, and it's currently being studied by the FDA to help patients with chemotherapy restore their affected immune system. So it's an amazing wild food ingredient as well as a medicine, and it can be used to make a tea, it can be used as the base of a stock or a stew, and it can even be powdered and used as a mushroom flavouring or for a mushroom latte. So when we're foraging for turkey tail, we want to make really sure that we have a true turkey tail. There are other species of mushrooms that we could get confused with that also grow in the UK. So we've got the false turkey tail, and we've also got the smoky bracket, and a few other varieties of trametes that can look fairly similar. So with a true turkey tail, you've got concentric and clear rings of varying shades of brown, on the top or on the cap, and then on the outer ring you've got a clear band of white. And if you turn your turkey tail mushroom over, you should have a pure white underside with very small but visible spore holes. So on the false turkey tail, if you turn over your mushroom, you'll have more of a tan or orange underside. And you also won't have very clear visible spore holes. So we really want to make sure that we're ticking off all of these factors to make sure that we've got true turkey tail. So we've collected some amazing wild foods today, and it's starting to get dark, so we'll head back to the kitchen to cook up something lovely. bowl of wild noodle soup before it gets cold. But thank you so much for joining us in today's video. Hope you enjoyed yourself, and if you did, please let me know in the comments below, and consider subscribing to this channel where we'll be going on more foraging walks soon. Damn it. Oh, one noodle.